What is the creepiest experience you've ever had while driving late at night / very early in the morning? Please like and subscribe to support us. My husband and I were on an emergency trip out to MS to help get my mom into a nursing home. I don't have a license to drive a car, so he had to drive the whole way. About 3 a.m., we get to this stretch of road that is, as far as I could tell, a straight road with inlaid fields on both sides. All was well and good, but in the pitch black, with no streetlights, at 3 a.m., it was super unnerving. I noticed my husband, Ike, not acting quite right. Like, he was breathing differently and his posture was a little different, little stuff, but you notice when you're married. I was like, honey, do you need to take a break? And he goes, oh, no, I'm fine. Let's just finish this strip, and we can find a hotel. I trusted his judgment, and we made it across and hit the hay at a Days Inn somewhere. The next morning, we wake up and are brushing our teeth, and I comment on how creepy that stretch of road was. He gets quiet and goes, I honestly thought I dreamt that. I remember it not feeling real and me feeling like it was a dream. I told him I'd asked him if he needed a break, and he was like, yeah, I remember that too, and I thought I dreamt it. Do me a favor, and I'll return it if the need arises. If I ever tell you I'm fine and don't need a break after driving for 4 hours in pitch darkness again. Don't take no for an answer. I was so out of it I didn't realize I was that gone. So we now have a standing agreement to stop each other well before then, but the idea that he was fully dissociated in that moment and had less than a healthy grasp on reality always makes me shiver. I hate to imagine all the moments that could have gone wrong. Remember, exhausted driving is just as bad as drunk driving. When I was 18-19, my best friend, her sister, and I were driving home late after a night out. It was raining hard and made it extremely difficult to see on the highway. We stopped under an overpass to see if the weather would lighten up a bit. I turned to look out the window, front seat passenger, to find someone in a hoodie charging at the vehicle. Immediately go. We sped off into the night and made it home safely. I have never stopped under an overpass again, and I am almost 40. Driving back from visiting my boyfriend at his college. The drive took about 3 hours by expressway in a rural area. It was late and very dark out. All of a sudden, the wheels start shaking really bad, and I have to pull over. Luckily there was a rest stop exit right there, and I was able to pull off the expressway. My friend was with me, and she is pretty drunk and no help. I get out to see what happened and see my tire is very low. Please note this was years ago, cell phones were a thing, but good service wasn't. I open the trunk to get out the jack and spare tire. 2 guys come over to help. Mind you, it is the middle of the night at a rural rest stop, so I'm a little cautious but can use the help. I can and have changed a tire, but it's not easy and takes me longer than I care to admit. So I let the guys help, but it quickly became apparent they have no idea what they are doing. As I'm trying to get rid of these 2, my buzzed friend gets out of the car and starts trying to chat them up. It takes a couple of tries, but I get her back in the car, all while trying to get these guys to leave. I'm starting to get really uncomfortable and nervous when out of the corner of my eye, I see a car pull out from a dark corner of the parking lot. 2 other guys pull up, and before they even got out of the car, the first 2 hurried to their car and left. The new guys quickly changed my tire. None of us said a word while they changed it. I said thank you, and both gave me a nod and just left. No clue who those fellows were, how long they sat in the shadows watching, but after 20+ years, I think of them often and wish them well. So the summer after I graduated, I worked at a state park as a temporary worker. My shift was 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. with one of the rangers. One night, we were driving down to one of the boat launches when a man jumps out of the bush right in front of us. He was dressed only in his tighty whities, waving a stick like a sword at the truck. The ranger opened the door and leaned out, asking, "Sir, do you need some help?" To which he screamed, "No," and ran into the woods again. Saw a lot of weird shit at that job. It wasn't a spooky kind of creepy, but one time when I was 20, I was on a drive home, and it was about an 8-hour trip. There ended up being a traffic accident on the way, so I got held up, but couldn't afford to book a hotel for the night. About 4 hours from home, like 11 p.m., I was on a stretch of secluded highway, and there was a car behind me, but I didn't think anything of it. The same car followed me for the next hour, but I assumed that they were just going to the same place. I ended up stopping at a gas station to grab an energy drink, and the car stopped across the road but didn't get out. Again, I didn't think anything of it. When I left, the car pulled out and followed me again. I kept driving and about an hour later pulled over at a rest stop to use the bathroom. The car, still behind me, stopped at the entrance of the rest stop, but didn't get out. At this point, I got super creeped out. I was like 2 hours from the next city, home, so I didn't know what to do. Just to be sure I wasn't going crazy, I pulled over at the next pullout. The car pulled over on a pullout behind it, but on the other side of the road. Again, they didn't get out, but just sat there. So I kept driving, and as soon as I got back into my town, I called my parents to tell them what was going on. They told me to go downtown and make 4 left turns. I did, and again, the car followed me. My parents told me to drive to the police station. The car followed me the entire way to the police station, and as soon as I turned in, they peeled off like 50 kilometers per hour over the speed limit. I went in and told the cops what happened, and they sent a patrol officer to find the guy, but I never heard anything about it. I have no clue what the person's motives were, but it terrified me. Now I'm super cautious anytime a car is behind me at night and takes the same turn I do. Was driving home from an overnight shift early in the morning. It was a back road, very remote, and I was tired. The radio was off. It was dead silent. Naturally, I fell asleep. Suddenly a voice comes through the car speaker. Right as rain. It said in a loud stern voice. I jerked awake to find myself slowly driving through a field that I drove into while sleeping. My heart was pounding from the voice. No idea how it happened. It said my name. I fiddled with the sound, and the on and off buttons. The radio was off. It was a strange experience. I was driving down an old country road at night when my headlights caught a glimpse of something. I slowed down and saw what appeared to be a decrepit-looking person hunched over with a slow, ominous gait. They were just trudging along the side of the road in the middle of the night, like an aimless zombie. I pulled up beside them and hollered out. To my horror, I saw what appeared to be a middle-aged woman with stringy, greasy hair wearing some kind of gown. Not only was she barefoot, but her gown seemed to have bloodstains all over it. I hollered out again, but she just kept walking. Ma'am, I said, are you all right? What are you doing? She stopped dead in her tracks and slowly turned her head towards me. She gave me this awful, scary-looking grin. Her teeth were disgusting. I immediately got a sinking feeling in my stomach. I knew something wasn't right. Long story short, I called the police and followed alongside her in my vehicle. She didn't seem to mind me at all. She just kept walking. Eventually, help arrived, and it came to light that she was a resident at a nearby care facility. She had early onset dementia and apparently found her way out when no one was looking. Her period coincided with this event, and she smeared the blood all over herself. This was years and years ago, but it's still fresh in my mind as a truly terrifying experience. I still have nightmares of seeing her limping along that dark highway, grinning maliciously. Not necessarily creepy, but messed up either way. I was about 19, driving my mom's car through the woods late at night to go take care of my friend's cats that I was cat sitting. Keep in mind I do have pretty bad driving anxiety. As I'm driving through the woods, someone throws an egg at the car, and it hits straight at the windshield. It was dark outside, and I couldn't see, and the egg basically covered my entire field of vision. I turned the windshield wipers on and just tried to get to where I was going since there was nowhere to pull over. I never saw who did it, and the noise from it hitting the windshield was so loud I thought someone shot me / the car for a second. Took a while for my heart rate to go down after that one. Not me but my brother. Driving home from out of town with wife and 3 kids in the back. Going 100 down the highway, both him and his wife see a man on the side of the road. He wasn't trying to hitchhike and wasn't really paying attention to the cars. They only saw him for a second, but he kinda looked like he was stumbling. They're at least 5K from the last town, so they figure he's in trouble. They want to turn around to see if he's okay, but on the highway, you can't just do that anywhere. By the time they find a turnoff and make it back to the spot, it's at least 15 minutes later. They don't see anything, so they call the local police and explain the situation. My brother and the officer look around a bit, but there's not much you can do. This is the middle of the prairies, there's lots of open land, and they're not 100% sure exactly where they saw the guy. The officer says he'll call some more guys and look around a bit more, but for my brother to go home and get his kids to bed. The next morning he got a call from the officer. They found the guy in a diabetic coma and were able to get him to a hospital. He had some beers at the town they passed and just wandered off. My brother definitely saved his life. My sister was practicing driving around 9 p.m. or so at night. We stopped at the gas station before heading back home. Our windows were all the way down since it was summer. From the sidewalk, we heard a raspy voice call out to us. It was a middle-aged woman from the tone. But we couldn't see her. It was so dark out, and there wasn't a street light by her. She kept asking us to drive her to her brother's house. She claimed she got off the bus too early and doesn't know where he lives. We ignored her but stupidly didn't close our window. We kept praying for these damn cars to stop coming down the street so we could turn. She kept asking for help and said she wasn't a sketchy person. We told her sorry and were finally able to turn. After we drove off, I was like, if we gave her a ride, how TF would she be able to tell us where her brother lives if she claims she doesn't even know to get there by foot? We stopped driving with the windows down afterward. Driving I-80 late one night through central PA. It's slightly shorter to cut through Black Machan and then take Phillipsburg or Snowshoe, so we did that. It's a gravel road. I'm driving maybe 35 miles per hour when I see eyeshine in the road. But like, in the road. Low as could be, I couldn't see an animal. Just blinking eyeshine. Looking ahead, there's at least 5 more. Assuming it's not something I should run over, I creak up slowly on it and roll down my window. It's a freaking whippoorwill. Rolling around happily, giving itself a dust bath and singing. There must have been 15 more not giving a single shit about our car passing a few feet by. I never think about deer. I rarely see deer in my area. But one night a couple of months ago, I was taking some back roads heading home from a friend's place at around 1 a.m. Out of nowhere, the idea popped into my head of a deer suddenly appearing on the road in front of me. How would I react? Would I swerve or slam on the brakes and duck down? It was just a weird little daydream or thought experiment. Not 60 seconds later, I came across a large deer with antlers slowly ambling around in the dark. I had no trouble slowing and stopping in time, thankfully. So I just watched it cross the road and kinda disappear into a field. I drove on for a bit, but since the roads were deserted, I thought I'd go back and try to take a few pictures of it. When I got back to where it had been, it was gone, but then 2 baby deer came flying across the road and into the field like the other one had done. Not so much creepy as strange and coincidental, I guess.